A couple of weeks ago, we talked about it a lot on the show, and it's Project 2020. But within the last couple of weeks, guys, especially this week in particular, with some cards coming out this week, which I believe we had a Twitter question on that I'll let you touch on in just a second, Ben. It's there's Project 2020. Let's put it this way. In my opinion, it's getting a lot more interesting.
It really is. I mean, I don't know if you guys, Mike, are you buying any of this?
Yeah, I'm kind of falling into what I think is the stereotypical deal with some of these online releases that I should have learned my lesson with the living set, but I didn't. I didn't get involved with 2020 at the very beginning, and I did so because I was not thinking about it correctly from a financial perspective. I appreciated the art side of it, but at $20, I wasn't really willing to start to fork those over. I didn't really I thought about it from a traditional collecting mindset, not the new market that this could be potentially bringing in of people who are not traditional baseball card collectors. Right, and I think that's where I really dropped the ball. And so I started buying a few as an experiment a few weeks ago with one of the Mattingleys and one of the Trouts just to test it out. As I got those in, I immediately sold them for over double, was able to keep one of each for myself, sell the rest for some profit. Over the last 2 weeks, I've been buying at least 5 of every card, but that's also when we've seen production runs start to spike.
So this was the first week I bought. Gotcha. Frank Thomas was the first week that, I mean, I'd liked some of them before. I thought they were cool, but I didn't take the plunge. But this week, the Frank Thomas, the gold one, it's a card I love. And I thought it's just a unique take on it, so I thought, why not? And it also happened to come out the same day as the T206 set. So I ended up purchasing all of that at once. But I just took the plunge this week.
So I think it's going to be interesting because I did this right when the production runs were starting to increase. And so I'm not sure that we're going to see the $100, $200, $300 type prices for any of these now. But even some of those cards from early last week that haven't shipped yet, they're still had some pretty significant print run increases, but the current selling prices on eBay are still $30, $40, $45.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You can at least buy a 2-pack for the one you want. Yeah. And probably flip the one that you don't want and get yours for free or close to it, right?
Yeah.
You know, if you're in at $35 and you sell the one you don't want for $40, you're talking about maybe keeping the one after you pay all your fees and everything.
Yep.
You're probably coming out ahead with free plus, $14 at the worst case scenario.
If you can sell for around $22 to $23 with shipping, you can break even at least on you're not going to lose money on the one that you're trying to sell. Like that's the break even point. So if anything above that is all offsetting your cost.
Absolutely.
So we haven't really seen any on the secondary market after everything is released consistently sell for less than price. Low 20s is about the lowest you've seen, kind of that break even point.
Yeah.
But not everything is a guaranteed double like it was for a while. But this next few weeks, as people start to get these increased print runs in hand, will really be a test for that secondary market. And I'm interested in seeing that.
And I think a lot of what that's going to do, I do think you're 1,000% correct. I think we are going to see a lot of change in the secondary market. Now, how big and how drastic that change is, I'm not one to speculate, but I do think it is going to have a lot to do with who that artist is that did
it.
And that's going to have a lot to do with it. Not even the design. I've seen some that, now, granted, the artist is great, and I might like every other one that artist does, but there's a couple that look terrible, but they're still selling great because it's them. I think there's certain artists that have that so die-hard following, they're going to buy any of them up. And I think that's where you're going to see, that's where you might see the secondary market at least a little bit stay the same. But I do think when these higher print runs come out, it is going to be, interesting to watch. But it definitely the Ben Ballers, the Jamesons, ones like those, I think are always going to be, no matter where the print run gets, I think they're always going to be just a little bit higher, which is funny because, it's a hobby where we always talk about print runs, and, the higher the print run, the less desirable something is. But,
Well, and two things real quick to follow up on this before we move on to our Twitter question about Project 2020. One, I think Mike is spot on. Where's the spike on this set? We saw with Topps Living, it took about 3 months. Mind you, at that time, it was 3 cards per week. And so it was just released once a week, available for 7 days. It took about 3 months for people to really get an idea of what the set was and whether or not I want to be in part of this or not. The difference in Project 2020 is it's 2 cards per day, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And I think for, the price point is considerably different, right? It's not $5 a card times 3 per week, $780 a year at the time of release, right? Now it's down to 2 cards, so it's even more financially palatable.
Yeah.
But I think now a lot of collectors know that this set exists.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot are kind of artificially inflating the print run right now because people are seeing those spikes on the secondary market. Let me get my $20 in so I can make 200 in a week. And I just don't think that's sustainable. Now, the second point is Blake Jameson mentioned on our show this past week that there's an ESPN exclusive coming out with him next week because he's dropping his Mark McGwire card tentatively on Wednesday the 20th. And he couldn't show it to us. He couldn't say much about it other than the fact that they have an 85 spin to it, which is phenomenal because obviously the 85 McGwire has his face and the 87 McGwire has him from behind where you can kind of see his face, but it's more or less the backside of him. I was hoping an artist, one of the 20, would do that for me personally, just being selfish. I think once the ESPN piece comes out with Blake Jameson, I think you're going to see even more of a spike for a little while, maybe a couple weeks, a month. But ultimately, I think that this is within the next 30 days. I think some of this is going to kind of calm down because we also have the big extenuating, elephant in the room, which is the world, right? If the world goes back to normal and people go back to their lives, they're not going to be all encompassed and focused on the hobby.
Right.
And to your point real quick, Drew, let's if we can briefly talk about this.
We got a couple callers I want to bring in just a few moments, guys. Just hold on a few minutes and we'll pull you guys in. Thanks for calling in.
Just one last thought, guys, whoever's on hold. TJ at BR8KNNX on Twitter asked us, this is his question. I just want to know the over-under on the Don C. Frank Thomas Project 2020. 30,000 question mark. Awesome card, but Frank Thomas is not exactly the best subject for Don's first card out of the gate. I know Don C is from Chicago, so it makes sense. But will it make more than a few cents, so to speak? Cents being spelled as in dollars and cents. 30,000. It's gold. It looks gorgeous, but if we're ranking these iconic cards 1 through 20, at least in my opinion, that Frank Thomas is probably the 20th most iconic out of these 20.
No, I agree with that, but also I know, at least from when we were doing the Vintage Break South show the other day, right when it dropped, we were looking at it, and that's when I bought some for the first time, and I saw we had about 50 or 60 people in that were all looking at it at the same time and had about 15 or 20 people that all bought in for the first time. That card, I think, also looking at the comments, I love going to the Topps ads and reading the comments on all of these. They're just so funny every single day to me. How angry people get over some of these cards, but the amount of love that this one was shown and the amount of people saying, oh, I'm going to get this one. I think 30,000 is a great number. I think that's probably where you would set the line at if you want to be conservative on it, at least in my eyes. I think it'll probably go to about 32 or 33. But yeah, I'd put it at about 30,000.
Mike, where do you think? I think 30,000 is high for me personally, but
yeah, I don't know that it will. I don't know. I would say that it's a Jeter or a Trout that's going to be pushing, that is pushing those 30,000 numbers. I'm not sure that the Frank Thomas is going to get there at this point, but
The only reason I think it might is because of the bulk deal, because both cards were so nice looking. But that's just me.
I would think it settles in at 13 to 15,000. If it goes above that number, I think the big variable at play here is the fact that this is Don C's first card.
Yes.
And we don't know what his secondary market is going to be. We don't know what his following is going to be. And as Mike alluded to, I think most of us that have followed this set have come to the understanding. And I even asked Blake Jameson when he was on the show, do you agree that that we card collectors are not the primary consumer target, that the art collectors, their personal following are the primary and we are the secondary on this set?
Yeah.
And so Topps wasn't really gearing this towards us as much as it was them. And he's like, yeah, absolutely, 100%. So having said that, we don't know what Don's following is. And so we're not going to know that until he's got 2 or 3 cards out, because he was the last one to the show.
But I also think that if he does have a strong following, I don't know much about him at all. I actually didn't realize this was his first card until just now. But looking at it from that way, if he is that late into the gate, if he has a strong following, I'm going to assume that they're salivating for those cards. If they are, that's where I think the print run could go pretty high. But it's going to be interesting to see. Regardless, it's going to be fun. But we do have a couple of calls, guys. We'll first bring in someone who's been on hold for quite a while. You guys know him as Mr. Newman says, it's not a show without the O. What's going on, Mr. O? How's it going, buddy?
It's going pretty great.
Good, bud. So what's going on today, man?
So my question is about the future of online releases, and especially with Topps 206, the newest online release.
Okay.
How do you think? So let's say we all get back to normal. Do you think this year will be the one with the most online releases? Right? What do you think is going to happen with online releases in the future?
I think they're going to keep. I think you're going to see more and more and more and more and more, regardless of if we're at home or not. They've found. I don't think Topps, Panini, Leaf, Upper Deck, I don't think any of their online releases in any way, shape, or form have shown them that they shouldn't. People are buying them up like crazy. They throw out a new on-demand product, it sells out like crazy. They put out the Montgomery Club, put out specific sets like the T206s. That print run's going to be astronomical. They put out the Jeter stuff once a month. Those are going to be huge. I mean, nothing they're putting out that's massive. Yes, some of it might not be, knock a home run out of the park and the most desirable thing in the world, but everything they're putting out is selling. So I think you're going to keep seeing online releases. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the most popular products start to get a online release themselves, kind of like Mosaic used to be for a Prism. I think, which you kind of already get with First Off the Line. I don't think you're ever going to see that stop. I think you're just going to see it go more and more and more. And I think that's what the companies want, because they have more control over it. Now, whether they like doing the printing for it, since it's printed at their own printing presses, that's another story. But I see it going astronomically higher. What about you guys?
Yeah, I think, Rich chimed in a comment there on the YouTube comments and said, the end game is likely going to be direct to consumer and cutting out the middleman. And I hope so. I think that is definitely likely. There are going to be things like, they may not have to fill all the orders themselves. I think you could still have some massive production on a flagship type product, but fulfilled by Amazon, right? Like that, and work out some of those types of distribution arrangements where they still don't have to handle all of the inventory and the warehousing and the returns and anything else like that. But that's where things need to go, I think.
Yeah. Well, you guys have seen the movie The Goonies, right? Probably,
of course,
100 times.
Yes.
When they're down in the Fratelli's, restaurant basement, and Data clicks the printing machine, and he's like, $50 bill, $50 bill. That's exactly what this is. They literally found an incubation system to print money. And it like you guys are talking about, right? It's direct to consumer. I can buy it. I can get it delivered into my mailbox within 7 or 10 days. I can buy as much as I want or as little as I want, or you can team up with buddies and buy the cards and kind of split the difference, right? Mike's got the Montgomery 582 membership, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Mike.
I do.
Yep.
I've got it too.
Weren't you selling team sets last year out of the factory set, or was that
not me? I kept everything last year.
Gotcha. Okay.
I kept it all. That was one of my kind of PC items, is all of the Montgomery stuff.
Gotcha.
I kept for myself.
But I know a lot of people bought, like, say, the All-Star set that was released, I think, at like Target or Walmart.
Yes.
And then, hey, I'm going to buy the whole set for $60. I'm going to keep the A's out of it. And then I'm going to sell the twins to Stefan.
That's what,
and I'm going to sell I'll sell you the Cubs over here. And all of a sudden, we're all the kids on the playground once again.
Yeah.
And we're all pulling our money together to cover the hard cost of $60, but it's costing you $8, and Drew, it's costing you $4, and it's costing me $7.
And that's what I just did with the T206 set. I just, when I got it, I started talking to people. I'm like, look, I'm buying this just because I want a couple of things, but if anyone wants them, let me know, but I'll hook you up. Now, thanks for the call. Mike, did you have something to say? We have another caller on the line, but were you about to say?
No, bring them in. Okay.